The undisputed king of the Savanna is not born into a life of royal luxury. He does not inherit his massive territory smoothly from a loving, protective father. Before a male lion can ever claim a throne, he must survive hell itself. This is the untold story of the brutal years spent in pure, unforgiving exile. At just 3 years old, his life completely collapses into terrifying, violent chaos. He is suddenly violently attacked by the very adult male who sired him. It is not a punishment. It is an ancient, genetic eviction notice designed to strictly prevent inbreeding. The young prince is violently driven away from the only family he has ever known. He steps past the invisible borders of his pride and becomes a nomad. Out here in the unmarked wilderness, there is no mother to hunt for him. He is a clumsy, inexperienced teenager carrying a suddenly massive, hungry body. The reality of his terrifying new independence hits him within the first week. He is constantly starving. His ribs begin to show clearly beneath his dull, unkempt golden coat. He does not hunt majestic herds of buffalo or fast, elusive gazelles. He survives by becoming a desperate, opportunistic scavenger hiding in the tall grass. He chases vultures away from rotting carcasses abandoned under the harsh sun. He steals scraps of meat from leopards and cheetahs whenever he possibly can. But his greatest threat does not come from lack of food or water. His greatest threat comes from the resident kings who own these vast lands. If a dominant male spots him, the young nomad will be executed instantly. He must live like a ghost. He moves silently under the cover of darkness, avoiding the roar of older males. But he is rarely completely alone in this terrifying, dangerous exile. He travels alongside his brothers or cousins, forming a desperate brotherhood of outcasts. This young male coalition is the only thing keeping any of them alive. They sleep with their backs pressed tightly together in the freezing night wind. They rely entirely on each other when the real monsters finally surround them. One moonless night, the young brothers accidentally wander into a hyena clan's territory. Within seconds, 40 aggressive hyenas emerge from the shadows, laughing and circling. The hyenas know these young lions are inexperienced and deeply vulnerable. They close the deadly circle. The young lions press their flanks together, baring their teeth in absolute terror. The hyenas lunge forward, snapping their bone-crushing jaws at the lion's legs. The brothers fight back with frantic, desperate swipes of their heavy paws. They are bleeding, exhausted, and hopelessly outnumbered in the pitch-black darkness. But this terrifying encounter forces a massive evolutionary shift within their growing bodies. The sheer stress of constant survival begins flooding their blood with heavy testosterone. The pain transforms them. Their muscles begin to swell dramatically beneath their heavily scarred, battered skin. Thick, dark hair begins erupting around their expanding necks and broad shoulders. The awkward teenagers are slowly molding into heavily armored, incredibly lethal weapons. They survive the hyena attack, but the scars from that night remain forever. For 2 more agonizing years, they endure droughts, starvation, and endless brutal fights. Most wandering males never survive this incredibly harsh, unforgiving trial period. They die from infected wounds or starvation before reaching their 5th year. But the few who do survive are completely unrecognizable from the frightened cubs. They are now massive, battle-hardened warriors with pitch-black manes and deeply scarred faces. They are finally ready. At 5 years old, the brothers stop running from the deep roars of resident kings. Instead, they begin actively tracking those roaring sounds across the vast savanna. They are no longer terrified scavengers hiding in the tall grass. They are fully grown apex predators seeking a kingdom of their own. Their first target is a territory held by two aging, dominant males. The young coalition does not attack with stealth or quiet precision. They announce their arrival. The brothers stand side by side and release a deafening, synchronized roar into the night. It is a direct challenge that echoes for miles across the open plains. The resident kings immediately respond, rushing forward to defend their land and their bloodline. The resulting battle is not a ritualized display of power or a gentle pushing match. It is a fight to the absolute, violent death. Massive paws strike with enough concentrated force to shatter thick skulls instantly. Sharp teeth sink deeply into thick necks, trying to crush heavy windpipes. The air fills with the sounds of tearing flesh and furious, aggressive snarling. Blood stains the dry earth. The young brothers use the brutal combat tactics they learned fighting off hyena clans. They cover each other's blind spots, coordinating their attacks with terrifying, silent precision. The older males simply cannot match their endless stamina and aggressive desperation. Within an hour, the violent struggle is finally over. One resident king lies dead in the dirt, his reign permanently finished. The other is badly wounded and runs away into the darkness, forever exiled. The brothers stand bleeding, exhausted, and triumphant over the broken bodies of their enemies. They have finally won. But the brutal reality of their new kingdom quickly becomes apparent. They now control the waterholes, the hunting grounds, and a pride of female lions. However, the females are currently nursing the cubs of the kings they just killed. The new rulers cannot afford to wait for those cubs to grow up. Their own biological clocks are ticking loudly against their newly won crowns. They must systematically hunt down and eliminate the previous king's entire genetic legacy. The cycle of violence continues. It is a harsh truth that wildlife documentaries often romanticize or simply ignore entirely. We see the majestic king resting peacefully under the shade of an acacia tree. We see the powerful ruler surveying his kingdom with quiet, absolute authority. But we rarely see the horrific gauntlet he ran to earn that peaceful shade. Every scar on his face was earned in the darkest corners of the wilderness. Every missing tooth is a reminder of the starving nights and desperate hyena battles. He earned his crown through blood. A lion king is not born with an inherent right to rule the savanna. He is forged in the fires of starvation, brutal combat, and constant, terrifying threats. He is a survivor of the most ruthless natural selection process on the planet. Only 1 in 8 nomadic males will ever live long enough to become king. The rest die forgotten in the dust. The throne of the savanna is the most dangerous seat in the entire animal kingdom. The young brothers have claimed it today, but their war has only just begun. Eventually, another hungry coalition of scarred brothers will emerge from the deep shadows. And they will demand the exact same bloody price for the crown. The king must always be ready to fight.